Well, good evening and welcome to Ladies Can We Talk. We are hot and heavy into the primary voting season and just tons of political stories to talk about and a mere 2 hours to cover them. So we're going to try not to talk too quickly. But this is Debbie Georgatos and Ladies Can We Talk. We have just a great show coming up. In this very first segment, I always try to talk about one little idea about speaking up for America. It's kind of my one segment I do, just me and something about America. And I was thinking about over this past week, we've had obviously the South Carolina primaries yesterday for the Republicans. Nevada had their caucus for the Democrats. We've had two primaries. We've had, I can't even think how many debates, watching the Republican debates and the Democrat debates. And so I just had this thought I wanted to plant this seed about, and that is, you know, we can get caught up in debate answers and apparent contradictions between what someone said today versus what they said a year ago, or how they reacted to a question, or whether they did or did not do some particular thing. But I really want to, this show, Ladies Can We Talk, it really is all about this idea of re-embracing, re-understanding the goodness and greatness and uniqueness of America, understanding better why it is great, reclaiming the American identity. And this presidential race, it's so easy to get caught up in the politics and the ideas and words being shot back and forth. But really, this particular campaign season and this particular election in 2016 could not be more important for America's future. I'm going to say a couple reasons why. Actually, several reasons why. One is that this new president, whoever comes into office in January 2017, is going to inherit an economy that is not only a disaster, but a disaster most people don't know is there. We have misleading statements by the president and people in the press trying to defend the president, saying, wow, this is great, low unemployment, things are just humming along. And the American economy is in a disaster. We have record debt, $18 trillion in debt, and that's only the debt we admit we have. We have unfunded liabilities so far in excess of 18 trillion, it's almost pointless to run through the estimated numbers. But the point is, we are living an economic fallacy in our country. So we need a new president who can deal with that reality, explain it in terms the average eighth grader can comprehend, so everybody gets on board with the idea that we have to make big changes in America. That's one thing. This president coming in starting in 2017 needs to reset the clock, restate what the idea of America is, reestablish the American identity, and that's worth fighting for. Another thing that the new president will encounter, and the whole country is encountering, is the loss of the idea of free markets and freedom in America. What the concept is of free market, a free enterprise economy. We have multitudes, millions and millions and millions of Americans living in this country under essentially a socialist empire that has been built, a socialist squalor, where their life basically is dependent on the federal government providing them housing subsidies, food stamps, everything provided for them. And these children growing up in those neighborhoods, they don't even know that this isn't how life is supposed to be in America. We need a president to restate, to reinvigorate for all of us the idea that America is built on, that self-reliant, can-do, free market, free enterprise, get out there, make your way in life, find your way, and then you get to keep the reward for your labor. We have whatever the percentage is of young people of college age, 48% or something, who actually think socialism is a good idea. We need a president willing to dedicate many speeches, many times when he or she is talking to the country about the evils of socialism. That has to come from the bully pulpit of the presidency. It has to be a statement loud and clear. This is a free market country, and if you think you like socialism, please move to Cuba. We need a president to restore, and this is probably the one I should have said first, restore constitutional America. The idea that the reason America is great, the reason it's the beacon of freedom to the world, the reason it is the liberty leader of the world, the reason it is the bustling economy sought by people around this world, has to do with the structure of our country, the constitutional structure of our country. The Constitution has been battered and shattered and shredded by this particular president, Barack Obama, and the new president coming in has got to be able to explain why it is we must undo multitudes of executive orders that the President Obama had no constitutional authority to do. We need a president who will point out that the balance of power created in the Constitution between the legislative branch, the Congress, the executive branch, the president and the executive agencies, and the courts, the balance of power was meant by the founders to prevent the growth of a powerful executive, to prevent the growth of a king. We need a president to understand and say that and explain it, to reinstitute constitutional government. We need a president to say we need bold action to take control of our borders. We cannot any longer pander to political correctness. A president to say the border security is not a dream, it's not a whim, it's not unfair, it's not mean. It is simply you can't have a country without borders. And related to that, we need a president to say that immigration in America is the decision of the American people as created by the elected Congress, members of the House and Senate. Immigration policy is not decided by people who entered America illegally and now want to stay. It's not created by people who came here with a visa and overstayed their visa. Immigration policy is a matter of federal law. It is the federal government's job to set immigration policy and to demand the laws be followed. There is a need for a major overhaul of the immigration system, and by that I do not mean the big, massive redo of immigration essentially legalizes everyone who entered illegal and is now here. I do not mean that. But the whole concept of immigration, who's allowed to come here, has to be based on security. It has to be keeping out potential enemies, and has to be saying our immigration policy is formed to protect and advance American interests. That's the reason for immigration policy. We don't have immigration policy to make sure that everyone who feels like becoming American has a path to do that immediately. Our policy has to support our country's needs in every way. We also need a president to reintroduce this concept, a hallmark of Western civilization, which is intelligent political discourse. We have had political correctness so crush this concept that we can't, for example, discuss whether as a society we wish to hold on to marriage as between a man and a woman, or marriage between any two people, even of the same gender. Reasonable, intelligent, loving, Christian, good people are entitled to differences of opinion. We have come to a place in this country that you can't discuss anything the left doesn't like without being hit with a hailstorm of just insult-slinging anger if you dare to say anything the left does not agree with. And this is part of what we need a new president, especially a Republican president, to do, to say, we're going to have conversations about the hard issues. And it's not an answer to just fling a label, to fling an insult. It's not an answer to say, oh, you must be a xenophobic, homophobic, racist, sexist, whatever the word is. We have to be able, this was one of the hallmarks, lifting civilization out of ugliness, was to say in Western civilization, we have the exchange of ideas. We need to restore and speak of America as a country founded on Judeo-Christian ideas. It does not mean that we don't welcome anyone. We have multitude of religions here. We respect people's rights to freedom of religion. But America's unique identity historically in the world and how the values developed in our society, what kind of culture we have, comes from the Judeo-Christian ideas in the Old and New Testament and the scriptures. And it's fine and has to be said by the president. That's what made America great. We need to restore that. We are not a country of some notion of the moral equivalency of all religions. No. Christian society, Judeo-Christian society, created a better country than any country formed and based on Islamic law. And the last thing I want to say, and there's just a profound problem that has been directly caused by this president. We need a new president to talk about how we're going to heal racial divisions in this country. We need a president who's going to call out the whole Black Lives Matter movement as a funded by George Soros, disruptive, intended to be harmful to America. We cannot unite around hyphenated American groups. We have to unite around the American identity. This is Debbie Georgatos, and ladies, can we talk? We're going to go to the fastest break you can possibly imagine, and when you come back, we have a great guest coming on. It's a friend of all of ours here. His name is Dan Morenoff. He's running for Texas State Legislature, and you know, Texas is the leader of liberty in America, and we need to find out what this great candidate is going to do to hold on to liberty in Texas and therefore in America. Debbie Georgatos, ladies, can we talk?